You have been talking about integrity, transparency, trust. You know, there are not that many professions on earth that stand for such great values. Not to mention the public interest, ethics. So you are a wonderful profession. Now, if you listen to me, I would like to make you realize that to be faithful to this profession, integrity, transparency, trust, you will have to change fundamentally in the way you work, in the way you record, in the way you count, in the way you report. Let me show you why. You know, at BCG, I am leading the Institute for Organization, and I have been studying the evolution of productivity. You know, the value that we produce at work. And there is a downward spiral, despite the internet, IT, computers, ERP systems, big data, analytics, artificial intelligence, constant decline in productivity improvement. So I asked a team to find out where is the hole. There must be a hole somewhere where the productivity potential disappears. But there is another trend. You are talking about people. How do people feel? There is another trend that I have been studying. The way people feel, they don't feel great at all. In Europe, depending on countries, sectors, only 11 to 23% of the people are engaged. So you know how polling institutes define engagement. If this is the minimum I have to do not to be fired, when people are engaged, they do a bit more. It is what they call walking the extra mile. In Europe, 80% do the minimum not to be fired. In the US, there is a constant decline in satisfaction at work. In 1987, 61% of the US workers were happy to go to work. In the evening, they were looking forward to tomorrow to come back to work. 2005, 55%. 2007, 50%. 2009, 45%. 2010, less than 43%. And then they stopped with this survey because clients were not really excited by the results. And they invented a new category, what they call active disengagement. People who are acting against the interest of their company, who are actively disengaging those who remain engaged. Again, this is important. We are talking about our life. You know, when you talk about people, people don't go to work to suffer every year a bit more than the year before and a bit less than the next year. So, and it is also surprising because I can tell you that companies have never paid as much attention as today to the way people feel at work. You know, work-life balance, personal time out. They send managers to leadership development programs so that they learn how to better motivate, animate, engage, affiliate their teams. What's the result? Counterproductive. What's going on? So I asked another team to make a root cause analysis to try to understand what is happening. The most interesting is that the more these two teams were digging, the productivity crisis, the work crisis, the more they converge to a common root cause that explains both crises. What is this common root cause? By the way, there is a good news, because if you remove the common root cause, what happens? You simultaneously improve performance and satisfaction at work. It is not a compromise anymore, the old compromise. By how much can I improve productivity without killing people morals too much, or how much can I improve satisfaction at work without killing productivity too much? No, you can do both simultaneously. This common root cause is the way companies have organized over the last decades. What do? They start with strategy, key success factor, performance requirements, to then derive the structures, processes, systems, The problem is that there are more and more key success factors to satisfy. You know, we are not in the good old days of Michael Porter. Do you compete on cost or quality? Today we need cost, quality, speed, reliability, innovation, efficiency, global consistency, local responsiveness, compliance. And every time there is a new requirement, companies follow the same approach that used to make sense in the good old days of Michael Porter, and they create dedicated structures, processes, systems, scorecard, metrics, clusters, hubs, shared service centers, countries, headquarters, committees, middle offices. To summarize, we try to deal with complexity by becoming more complicated. The business has become more complex. We need to satisfy more and more requirements. Contradictory. The problem is that we try to respond by becoming more complicated. In these organizations, managers spend their time in meetings, writing reports. They have less and less time to be with their teams. There is more and more work on work, less and less work. The teams are poorly managed. Based on our analysis, teams in these organizations spend between 60 and 80% of their time wasting their time, but working harder and harder, longer and longer on less and less value-adding activities. They have to do, undo, and redo. This is the productivity crisis. Now, how do people feel in the middle of the labyrinth? They lose purpose, they lose meaning, they lose direction, they disengage. By the way, you know, at BCG, like accountants, we like to count things. When I tell you that complexity has increased, by how much? I counted it. Over the last 55 years, we took 100 companies and we looked at the evolution of the requirements they had to satisfy to attract customers, to keep customers, to create value, to build advantage. Complexity has been multiplied by 6. If a company had to satisfy 2 requirements in 1955, today it has to satisfy 12. 3, 18. Now, what about complicatedness? The amount of layers, of dimensions in the matrix, of steps for approvals, of dotted lines. By how much has it increased? We counted it. We measured it on real companies. We counted it. I have the answer. But I would like to make a kind of game. Suppose that we had not counted the evolution of complicatedness and that we are trying to guess. You are good at counting. You are smart. Let's use a model. Let's assume that the company is a stupid machine. Whenever there is a new requirement, it creates a dedicated structure in charge of the requirement. So if quality is a requirement, we create the quality function. If digital is the requirement, we create the chief digital officer with the digital department, with digital business partners, with digital committees. You follow me? Complexity has been multiplied by 6. So here I make an important assumption. I hope you follow me. Each new structure has to coordinate with all the others. So you multiply n structures by n minus 1. Because here I assume that I don't have to coordinate with myself. If I have to coordinate with myself, you multiply by n. And you divide by 2. Because I assume that we don't say, today I will coordinate with you, tomorrow you will coordinate with me. Usually coordination works both ways, so we divide by 2. What would complicatedness look like today? Well, 6n times 6n minus 1 divided by 2. You see, I assume the company is a stupid machine. Whenever there is a new requirement, a new complexity requirement, we respond by creating dedicated structures, like the chief digital officer, like the quality unit. By how much would have complicatedness increased? Times 36 plus something more or less negligible depending on the starting point. Okay, so this is the threshold of maximum stupidity. It is impossible to do worse. Companies are stupid machines that adapt in a mechanical way to the new complexity. Complicatedness would have been multiplied by 36. Now, I told you I didn't use this stupid model. I counted with my teams on these real companies. And what is the answer? 6.7% CAGR over 55 years. Complicatedness has been multiplied in reality not by 36 but by 35. We are not far from maximum stupidity. We have grown asymptotically to maximum stupidity. Not surprising, productivity is so disappointing and people feel so bad at work. Now, my question to you, what have you been doing all these years? Not you, but your predecessors. What have you been doing? Have you been advising? Have you been challenging? Or have you been trapped in this idea that accountants need to be business partners? So we need to follow the businesses, and we do it in a subservient way. We are counting budgets, we are reporting. Do we ask? Do we challenge? What's the goal of all these structure, process, systems, scorecards? Now, you are the principle of reality in organizations. This is what it means, integrity. This is what it means, transparency. This is what it means, trust. If you don't stop this trajectory, who will stop it? Who will? Human resource management? No, human resource management, they create trainings. They do work-life balance initiatives, awards, celebrations, the employee of the week, of the month, of the year. You are the principle of reality. It is up to you to stop this. How can you stop this? You know, to deal with complexity without becoming complicated is about using people's intelligence in a new way. Multiplying their intelligence, because leaders add value. Are you able to measure the value added by leaders? Who is going to measure the value added by leaders if it is not you? Because you know, leaders need to add value, because when leaders don't add value, they subtract value. And when leaders subtract value, we need to subtract leaders. Cooperation, how each one adds to the value of others. Are you able to measure the value of cooperation? Engagement, people need to be engaged. Are you able to measure the value of engagement? You know, cost and revenues today do not depend on structures, on economies of scale. They depend on flexibility, adaptiveness, responsiveness, how people use their initiatives, their judgment, their energy, their intelligence. To me, this is the new front of accountancy. It is not about reporting and counting all these structure process systems. It is about making sure leaders add value so that you have less layers. So making sure there is cooperation so that you don't have middle offices. You know, in banks, when the back office and the front office don't cooperate, they create a middle office. And 1 year later, instead of one problem between the back office and the front office, they have two problems. Between the back and the middle, between the middle and the front, plus they have to pay for the middle office. And they go to the accountants to give a budget to the middle office. Your role should be what? Do we need a middle office? Let me just draw some practical implications of that. Because if this is what is going to create value tomorrow, cooperation, leadership, engagement, I would like you to realize that you will have to be much closer to the action. To conclude, let's take a real situation where what makes a difference is cooperation. Let's take sports. Relay race, World Championship final. 8 teams in the final. You know, the usual suspect, Belgium, Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, Jamaica, Germany, the US, France. Women, final World Championship. The fastest team is the US team. Notably, if you compare them to an average team, they arrive 3.2 meters ahead of the average team, the French team. And this year, the US team is in great shape. Based on their best performance this year, they arrived 6.4 meters ahead of the average team. We are going to look at the race together. You will see that the US is ahead, not surprising. Tori Edwards, the fourth US runner, got the gold medal in the 100-meter race. And Christy Gaines, the second US runner, this year she's the fastest woman on Earth. So there are 3.5 billion women on Earth. Where are the two fastest? In the US team. And the two other US runners are not bad either. But you will see behind the average team is trying to catch up. By the way, the journalists, the commentators are from Australia, Great Britain, the US, and they concentrate on the US runners because this is the favorite team to win according to the data. But the event was happening in France. And the cameraman who is filming is French. And this cameraman is concentrating not on the US runners, but on the French runners. So your eyes are going to see the French runners run, but your ears are going to hear about the US runners. So you will have to reconcile multiplexity, two different signals. I'm sure we can manage that. So remember, what you see are the French, what you listen about are the US runners.
Temporary tattoo, I would suggest. They're away in the final. Jamaica got a good start. France also well away. Further back on the inside, the United States going okay as well. Let's look at the first change. The US pretty clean. Russia also. And France are away. They're leading at the moment, the French. Coming back on the inside, the United States. Christy Gaines running a very strong leg. She passed the baton over to Inga Miller. And the US in front just. In second place is France on the outside. Tori Edwards will be very hard to beat in this position. Good change by the US. France on the outside, flying home. US in front. Here comes Christina on the outside. She dives and gets there. I think she's got it. Well, what a race. Christina on.
So you see, thanks to cooperation, the whole is worth more than the sum of the parts. It's not poetry, it's not philosophy, it is math, real mathematics. Those who carry the baton are slower, but their baton is faster. Miracle of cooperation. To deal with the new complexity of business, when we have all these requirements to manage, we need to multiply intelligence. This is why cooperation is so important. Now, what are the implications for accountancy? It means that you have to look at costs and revenues as a consequence of ways of working, as a consequence of the way people work together. When people don't cooperate, it takes more time. Like the US team, they arrive just too late. It takes more people, it takes more equipment, it takes more systems, because we don't cooperate, we don't make compromises, we don't make trade-offs, therefore we don't standardize, therefore we duplicate, we don't achieve economies of scale, no synergies. When procurement, manufacturing, supply chain don't cooperate, we need more stock, more inventory, more working capital. You need to be able to look at costs and revenues as a consequence of cooperation, what people do. But that requires a much greater presence from accountants. You know, the fourth French runner, Christine Aron, she told me, look at the race in slow motion. And this is what she showed me. She showed me this. She said, look at the third runner. Look at how she passes me the baton. Look at the third runner, again, from another angle. Look at her, the way she will pass me the baton. She will pass me the baton at the right time, at the right speed, in the right hand. She will shout at me so I can hear her coming and can better prepare, anticipate. And this is why I ran so fast. Now, who will know that this is happening? Who will know? Who will look at the individual productivity and how people, in passing the baton to the others, contribute to the productivity of others? Who will do that? Those who are in charge of numbers, putting the numbers in the service of people, this is what it means, to look at the real cooperation, the real processes. So to conclude, there are some rules. I wrote a book on that. If you are interested, I conclude in 2 minutes, a railway. They wanted to go through a transformation, becoming more customer-centric. And they had a lot of initiatives, improving customer in-train experience, improving customers in-station experience, improving the seamless experience train station. Spending less time reporting on delays, because they were spending 4,000 hours per year per station reporting on delays. They wanted to launch also a customer complaint department, customer service department, and the accountants were in charge of finding a budget for the in-train experience, in-station experience, seamless experience, customer relationship departments, and to report on train delays. Until an accountant said, look, what would happen if you were putting trains on time? Imagine that you were putting trains on time. If you put trains on time, you will spend less time reporting on train delays. You will have less need to deal with customer complaints and give a rebate to customers, and not spend all this budget improving all this experience, because what matters to people is for the train to arrive safe, on time, on place. And they started to look at the way these people were working, the way they were cooperating, why they were not cooperating. And 4 months later, punctuality moved from 80% to 95%. They are rolling out the whole approach. This was on 6 pilots. Now they are rolling out the whole approach to the whole company, and they have already moved from 80% to 89%. Punctuality used to be their weak point. It is now their strong point. It is at the center of their new advertising campaign. It may be surprising, but 89% of our trains are on time. I'm not sure you can see, but the most important part of this ad is not the young couple in the middle, but the parents in the background who are unexpectedly arriving on time. This is thanks to an accountant who said, I am not here to give budget on 4 initiatives. I am here to challenge the way we work and advise on creating the conditions for these people to work together. This is, to me, your real social responsibility, how you are really in charge of the public interest, because you do your real job, but in the new reality, by being closer to the actions, to leadership, to cooperation, to engagement. When you do that, you are going to build trust, transparency, integrity. This is your real mission. If you don't do it, nobody will. Don't leave it in the hands of human resource managers. Thank you.